Hello guys. Today I'm going to show you how to create an application load balancer using Kubernetes for deploying an Django application. The first things we need to do for an application deployment using Kubernetes with EKS cluster is we need to install the kubectl and then we need to install the EKSCTL. This EKSCTL is the command line interface that is used to communicate with the Amazon AWS EKS cluster, Elastic Kubernetes cluster. It is a service in Amazon Web Services. And then we need to install the Helm packager. So this Helm packager is useful in creation of the load balancer controller. So then we need to create an IAM policy and create a role with that IAM policy. So now let's get started with the creation of EKS cluster. So for that purpose, we need to install the AWS CLI and we need to configure with our AWS account. So let us install the AWS CLI first of all. So this command for installing the AWS CLI is sudo snap code in classic mode. Now we have installed the AWS CLI. Now it's time to install the kubectl. We have a GitHub repo. In this, I have commands for installing the kubectl and eksctl too. Let us just copy this, paste it here. Okay, let's add the repository. Now just it. We need to update the instance now. We need to tell the instance that we have a repository of Kubernetes to be installed. So now we need to install the Kubernetes sudo apt get install kubectl install kubectl. Now we have installed the kubectl. This kubectl is useful for this kubectl is useful for knowing the pods and the deployments or the services we have created and the ingress controllers that we are going to create. So now it's time to install the eksctl. I have told about this EKSCTL. We are using this EKSCTL to communicate with the AWS EKS cluster. Let's just copy this command and paste it here. Now we have successfully installed the AWS CLI, kubectl, and EKSCTL. Now it's time to configure our AWS account. So for that purpose, we need to generate an access key and secret key ID. So I'm just swapping for that purpose because the AWS keys are sensitive. So now I have configured my AWS account with the instance, and now it's time to create an EKS cluster. So let's just get started. Go to the GitHub repo and go to the EKS cluster repo. This EKS cluster repo has the command to create an AWS EKS cluster. Just copy this. While configuring your AWS account, you need to choose your region where you are going to create this EKS cluster. So I am using Fargate service as a compute service. You can use EC2 as your compute service too, like for creating a namespaces in that in EC2 nodes, like we call it as worker nodes, right? So now I'm giving the region to where this cluster need to be created, and the cluster name I'm going to create is give is my name. Now let's just enter. And this creation of EKS cluster will take up to nearly 15 to 20 minutes. We need to wait for 15 to 20 minutes and the EKS cluster will be created here. Parallelly, the cloud formation stack will also be created using this command. So let's just go in like we just go to the brief process, like what we do from scratch, like how to create an load balancer, what are the steps we need to follow. So the first step we need to is create an EKS cluster with EKSCTL. As I told, EKSCTL is used to communicate with the AWS EKS cluster and the instance means uh, the instance where we are going to use the AWS account. So this command, EKSCTL command, will create its own VPC subnets, IAM roles, security groups, everything. So then we need to associate an IAM OADC provider. This IAM OADC provider is it is permissions or the policies that need to be provided to the EKS cluster to communicate with the other AWS services. So for that purpose, in the next steps, we need to create the IAM policy, and then we need to create the IAM role. So this IAM policy that we create, it will be attached to the IAM role, and this IAM role is attached to the EKS cluster that we have created. So by doing this, whenever if we communicate, if we want to communicate with an EC2 instance, or if we want to communicate with other Fargate service, so using this EKS cluster, so this IAM role attached cluster can help in communicating with those other services too. So after this step 4, we need to install the Helm packager. This Helm packager will help in installing the load balancer controller. We can also say as Ingress controller. Many of you have doubt that Ingress is different than load balancer, right? The load balancer service. Yeah, but in exceptional case, application load balancer related to this EKS cluster in AWS, it is interlinked with the Ingress controller. So for creating an application load balancer with EKS, we need to first install the Ingress controller. So for that purpose, we use the Helm packager. So after installing the Helm packager, we need to create the load balancer controller. Then we need to write three files. These three files is for our application deployment purpose. One is deployment file and the service file, and the last one is ingress file. This deployment file consisting of the image, whatever the Docker image that we have created for the application. This image can also be present in the Docker Hub. We can directly pull from the Docker Hub, and then we need to use the service. We need to create the service file, service.yaml file, uh, which uh, uh, which states the type of service and the port, the target port where we need to uh, access this application, and then we need to create an ingress.yaml file, which is where the uh, details of the service and the port and the labels are given in the ingress file. So this is the repository that is containing the steps and the commands that we are going to use in egress cluster, ingress ALB load balancer. So let's see, it's taking time. Takes nearly more 5 more minutes. Let's just wait for some time. So guys, the cluster got created and the compute service we have using area Fargate service. So it's got created. Let's check in the AWS account. Yeah, the cluster is created and the cluster is also in active state. Let's go to the compute section and see the Fargate profile. Yeah, this Fargate profile he's got created. We can also create a namespace in the Fargate profile by queuing a command in this using the EKSCTL. So now we need to associate the IAM OIDC. So let's go to the GitHub repo and go to the OIDC, and we need to export the cluster from the AWS account. Let's just copy this and give the cluster name. The cluster name is we have created as Himaker. So let's export the cluster and use this command to associate the cluster one. Yeah. Then if we have not configured the IAM or ADC provider, we need to use this command, or else we can directly use this command AWS IAM list open to view the IAM provider in the AWS account. So let me just use this command and check. Yeah, we'll create. And since I have went configured the IAM OIDC provider, it's just created in my AWS account. Now we configure the OIDC IAM provider. Now we need to add ALB, application load balancer controller. So let's just go to the repo and download the IAM policy. So after downloading the IAM policy, we need to create that IAM policy in the AWS account. So let's just copy this command to create the IAM policy. Yeah, an error occurred. Entity already exists. So since my a policy is already existed in my AWS account with this name, let's just check with that in my AWS account. Let's just go to the IAM service and go to the policies and type the name which way AWS load balancer controller. Let's just search for that policy. Yeah, the policy is present here. A service, elastic load balancing. Yeah, we have this policy. So now we need to create the IAM role with this name. If this role is already present in your AWS account with the IAM policy attached, you don't need to create this IAM role. Let me just show you what to do with this command. Firstly, while creating your AWS, IAM role, you need to give you your AWS account ID. So let me just copy my AWS account ID and paste it here. Now we need to give the cluster name. Let me just give my cluster EKS cluster name as Himaka. Now hit on enter. Yeah, it's getting created. So we can give the whatever the IAM role name we want to give. You can give anything on your own. Any IAM role name you can give. Now we need to after creation of this IAM role, we need to install the Helm. We need to add the Helm repository. Uh, it just copy this command is present in the Kubernetes Helm documentation, which is present in Kubernetes site. So now we have created the service account in Kube system. Here the Kube system where is present is here in the Fargate profiles, compute section in the Fargate profiles, we have FV default as a profile name and the namespace is default and cube system. In this cube system, we have created this service account, AWS load balancer controller. Okay. Now we need to uh, add this Helm repo. Let me just here it is saying as we need to install the Helm package. So for that purpose, we need to firstly install the Helm package. Let me just install sudo snap install Helm in the classic mode because it is supportive in the classic mode only. So the Helm package is getting installed and it successfully installed. Let me just clear this and use the command again, repo command to add the repository and then we need to update the EKS cluster like the cluster we have created in this account. This cluster we need to update like if any changes are present and the solve stuff will be up to date. After updating the EKS cluster, with Helm package, we need to install the AWS load balancer controller. We have here AWS load balancer controller. Let me just copy this and paste it here. You need to enter your VPC ID. Here the VPC ID is the EKS cluster VPC ID, we need to go to the networking section and you will see here as VPC ID. This VPC ID need to be given here and the region name you need to enter this cluster region's name. The EKS cluster is present in US East 1 in my account and then the cluster name and hitting enter. This load balancer controller has installed now. So after this, we need to check whether the AWS load balancer controller is running or not. We just use this command to check whether the AWS load balancer controller is running or not. And the load balancer controller is successfully created and installed, and it's not ready for the deployment purpose. Let me just it will take nearly 2 minutes. Let me just let us wait for 2 minutes. Until then, we can write that deployment and service and ingress files. So this is the deployment file, which consists of the Docker image. This Docker image is a Django application. Here I am using the Django application. You can use any Node.js application or any application. So let me write the deployment file. I am accessing this application with the 8000 port. Let me just save this and then the service file and this service file here. Yeah, we have given the service name. And then lastly, we need to create the ingress.yaml file. Here we are giving here as ingress class as ALB, which is known as application load balancer. And the scheme is internet facing because we are not because we are communicating with the EKS cluster means we are accessing the application from the outside means from the internet. So here we are giving it as internet facing. If there is no accessing from the internet, we can you can give internal here. The accessing is not possible from the other IP addresses if you give the internal. Now copy this. Now yeah, dot YAML. Yeah. So we have created successfully these three files. Let me just check whether the AWS load balancer controller is ready. Yeah, the load balancer controller is ready. 2 by 2 means two replicas. So available are two, and we have created 2 minutes ago. So now let's apply the deployment file and the service file and the ingress file. Let me just yeah, the deployment file is created, and then we need to go create apply the service file to yeah the service also created. Now we have created the deployment and service. Now we need to create the ingress. Yeah, the ingress also successfully created. Now to get the ingress controller means the ALB controller, we need to use the command kubectl get. Let me just use that kubectl get ingress. Yeah, get ingress. Here, actually, I forgot one thing. What is the ingress name I have given? Ingress name. So ingress name is him app ingress. Let us use that one. kubectl get ingress. I think ingress him app ingress. Yeah, we have created this ingress. This is the DNS of the load balancer. So for this, we need to go to the AWS account and we need to go to the EC2 service and check whether the load balancer is created or not in this account. Let me just go to the EC2 service and choose the load balancers. And yeah, we have created this load balancer is just created. It's in the provisioning state. Since we have applied the ingress file here, in this ingress file we have we are creating the application load balancer here using the Kubernetes, and we have it automatically assigned a TNS name to with the port 80, but we are accessing this application in the port 8000. The difference between this port 80 and port 8000 is here the load balancer is showing is allowing access from the internet through the port 80. But in internally what happens is this load balancer from this load balancer, the request from the port 80 will divert to the port 8000 to the application. Whenever a user asks a request, means whenever a user sends a request through this load balancer, he can or she can access through the port 80. Internally, what happens is this load balancer diverts or routes this traffic to the port 8000 to the application. So this is about the ports, and let me just copy this DNS name, and here we can check the listeners and rules. Here we have HTTP 80 listener. We can also add another listener like 81 or 443 HTTPS protocol, anything. But as I am practicing, so no need to add a secure protocol. So let me just open the new tab and paste here HTTP, and we can access this application. This is the application where we can find in the GitHub repo. Mm, So yeah, so this is the application. This is the Docker file. I used the Docker uh, to create the image and push to the Docker Hub. And I used the Docker image from the Docker Hub, and this is the application I am accessible. This one is present in this repo. Let's just check whether it's correct or not. Yeah, hi, this is Himakar. Return HTTP response. So that is the result where from the ALB creation. So this is the creation of EKS cluster in the AWS service with the help of Ingress controller and load balancer controller with IAM rules attached to it, and usage of the Kubernetes means kubectl. Yeah, uh, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, guys.